If productivity were a game, what would it mean to level up, and what would the stages look like? Let's talk about the stages first. In a lot of games like Mario for instance, there's something like a world map. But unlike Mario, you start at the center and are allowed to choose whichever world you'd like to go to right from the start. Each of these worlds is a large ambition, or goal shaped by your desires, experiences, and your natural behavior as a human being. There can be a world with family and friends where the world's objective is to build a strong network. There can be another world that encompasses health and fitness, or your primary craft. If you have no ambitions or no goals, there are no worlds that you can see. The game of productivity is locked out. Or perhaps you're only stuck in one world where all your goals are fed to you, similar to how the school system works. It's a pretty boring game when there's only one playground with so many rules and restrictions. But this is the productivity game, and whether that goal is personal or forced upon you, productivity describes you reaching that goal effectively and efficiently. Your objective in the center stage is to make these other worlds visible to you. Essentially, your first goal is to find yourself a goal, a worthy goal that makes you feel alive and excited about life. Okay, with the primary world map set up, let's zoom into one of these worlds. I feel like the health and fitness world is a bit overly used with the whole diet, exercise, hygiene ideas. Important, but overused. So I'm going to enter a world much more personal to me. Let's take a look at the piano world. Once you enter your chosen world, the first thing you need to do is find a world map. You have a goal to become an advanced piano player, able to play all styles of music, from Baroque to contemporary to the modern-day piano-arranged film scores. It's not the most specific goal, but it doesn't have to be for the world goal, because there will be very specific goals listed in whichever world map you decide to use. The world map I was given as a child was the Associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music, or ABRSM. In the map, the path I had to travel involved going from level 1 to level 8, learning different scales, arpeggios, pieces from the Baroque, classical, romantic, and contemporary eras. The map was very specific about what I had to learn to make it past certain bridges to reach newer, tougher jungles that I had to work through. Finishing a piece was like slaying a mini-boss, and at the end of the jungle was the big boss, a test I had to take, and if my skills were sharp enough, I'd defeat the boss and make it past the bridge to the next stage. Each boss got harder and harder to defeat, but I managed to defeat all of them and reached a crossroads. From there, I once again have to find another map, or perhaps I can just explore without one, which is usually not the most productive method. A teacher or wise character in the game usually has a map for you and can show you the way. Once in a while, it's fun to look at other maps that would have taken you to a similar place, like the RCM map. You can go back to the previous stages in the lens of that map and easily defeat any adversaries on that path because of your skill level. But in this world, not everything is linear. You have to learn about music theory, sight reading, composition, technique, styles of music, and so on. Each one of these in itself is sort of a subworld or region of the world. If your ultimate goal is in composition, then you'll need to discover even more specific maps of this particular region. If all you want to do is play a single piece and nothing else, then you primarily need to just know general piano technique, rhythm, and which notes to play. You probably won't need to spend too much time in this world if it's an easy piece. The world and stages you decide on play a big factor in achieving high productivity, but what's more important is your character level and stats. No matter what stage you decide to play in, there are a couple stats that will always be useful. The first that comes to mind is focus, the ability to give all your attention and energy to one task. Somebody with no ability to focus will have a hard time accomplishing a difficult task that requires long hours of work. It's like when a game gives you a recommended stat level that you have to have before you try attempting to beat the stage. The further you advance into stages that are more difficult, the higher your focus stat needs to be. Another stat would be learning aptitude, your ability to learn quickly and piece together seemingly unrelated things. For instance, once you learn how to sight read in piano, your ability to play a rhythm game like DDR or Beat Saber actually goes up. At least it did for me, because I was able to make the connection that reading rhythms and notes is very similar to rhythm games. It's actually way harder to sight read. But learning quickly isn't an inborn stat. It's something you can improve by training your brain. The more skills you learn, the more your brain activates, increasing brain function overall. And the more skills you have, the more connections you can make, the faster you learn new things that have some sort of overlap in skills. So try a lot of new things and try to learn every day, and this stat will increase. It's a pretty important one as well, because the faster you can learn, the faster you'll be able to accomplish something new. A related stat is activation energy, your ability to initiate in a task that has a high level of resistance. Let's say you have the ability to focus intensely and the ability to learn quickly, but your activation energy is low. That minimizes the usefulness of the other two stats, because you'll find yourself never actually wanting to do anything too difficult because it's just too daunting. Starting that YouTube channel, starting that podcast, starting that business, engaging in that plan you've held on to for so long. All of that requires a high activation energy. This stat can increase by making shifts in your mindset or by doing a lot of things that have resistance. If you never start because of fear, you need to change your mindset to let go of trying to appear perfect and polished, and instead realize that when you start, things won't go as planned, but that's part of the fun of the journey and experience, to grow your abilities so that one day you'll be able to create exactly what you envisioned. If you're not starting because it seems too difficult, you need to break it down and just tackle the small tasks one at a time. Also, try more new things that you're afraid to do. Keep doing these things and you'll increase your ability to break through the resistance. That will help strengthen your activation energy. Another stat is insight, your ability to know when to change course, avoid traps, and realize when common advice doesn't apply to you. Sometimes the map provided to you doesn't always have the best path for you. It may have too many unnecessary tasks that have nothing to do with what you want and could distract you from your ultimate goal. Sometimes your situation is unique and all those common tips simply don't apply to you. Insight increases with experience. You genuinely gave your best try to use these common tips, but it never works for you. So you alter it to make it work for you. You tried your best to follow the map that was given to you, but you don't seem to be getting the results you want. So you make alterations to that map. You find a shortcut that is suitable for your way of thinking and approaching things. Insight requires a lot of thought and mental engagement in what you're trying to achieve. You'll never gain any insight if you don't actually gain experience from trying to play through the stages. The final two stats that I'll talk about are execution and integration. First, execution, your ability to play and beat the stage, as well as all the tasks given to you. The execution stat only improves as you play more and more. The more you play, the easier it becomes to beat stage after stage. It's all about practice. Next is the integration stat, which is your ability to play often and accomplish tasks every day. The integration stat increases as you refine your overall playing schedule. There are plenty of worlds to play in if you have a lot of goals. You'll find yourself playing a stage in one world and then the next world in the same day. But it takes energy to switch between worlds, so sometimes you end up tired. And then you end up chilling in front of the big monitor in the center of worlds. In this game, your level and stat decreases by a bit if you don't play. And while you're away, your skills dull and monsters begin to respawn. When you re-enter the world, you'll find yourself a few stages back from where you left. The way to solve this is integration. You have a system, a way of approaching playing every day, when to play, when to rest, when to switch between worlds, and which time of the day is most effective for you to be doing any of those tasks. Integration is highly tied to your ability to form good habits and organize yourself, both of which you can learn how to do in my 30-day habit course. Anyways, the stats so far are focus, learning, activation, insight, execution, and integration. Not your usual stat names, but memorable enough if you heard the explanation. There's definitely more I can do to flesh out this really long analogy to gamify productivity, but I think I'll explore the ideas of others first. This analogy was completely originally thought up on the spot, stat line and all. I just went with whatever I thought was the most logical analogy from my experiences. You start at the center stage, finding your goals, and then you enter a world that has its own set of goals, friends, community, and then figure out how exactly to reach those goals by finding maps, created by those who have already attained your goal. Then you begin your journey along the path that the map indicates. Along the way, you gain experience and your stats increase. Your insight might tell you that the map is stupid, so you end up creating your own. Sort of like first principles and Elon Musk's approach to SpaceX. There are endless possibilities once you begin to play through the stages. But remember, you gotta actually play the game in the right world if you're gonna get anywhere.